the changes that we're feeling, experiencing, seeing from the sun, these changes are catalysts for transformation on the individual level, as well as what we can see on the global level, from the microcosm to the macrocosm. So what we want to do is understand these changes from a neutral perspective, seeing the light and the dark, the good that can be created and also the destruction that others are attempting to create. Now, when I look at these cycles of the sun, I feel inside that there is some sort of one could call it a dimensional shift. One could call it the opening of a portal. There are many, many videos available now on YouTube. Videos taken from SOHO satellites showing crafts, UFOs, orbiting the sun, exiting the sun, going into the sun, comets striking the sun, solar flares following these comet strikes, direct hits. So I suspect that with these changes in the sun, that we may be experiencing some sort of a interface with some sort of a different form of energy, which may attract potentially certain entities or allow them potentially to enter the earthly realm. Some of these beings could be positive. Some of these beings I believe to be destructive and dark, and very focused on their agenda to manipulate and dominate the human species. But what is it about this agenda to terraform the planet, to chemtrail, to block out the sun? Now, there's a lot of things we don't know, and there's a lot of speculation. But I'm real interested in knowing why this military-industrial complex, which is running the chemtrail operation, which we can see on a global scale. Many countries are involved in this. Manipulating the weather is one thing. Harnessing the Earth's electromagnetic energy in the manner that HARP does. But I truly wonder why those that would seek to suppress our consciousness would also seek to keep out the divine rays of the sun. I think there's a correlation between points in time where mankind has the opportunity to ascend to greater levels of consciousness and self-awareness, and times where events are thrown in our direction, events like 9/11, things like what we're seeing now, and things like what we could see. There's something about our human body, our aura, that's affected very much by the sun. And I think this is something to spend some extra time focusing on, especially during a time where we're approaching solar maximum, and start to identify for ourselves through our own spiritual work how we can harness the power of the sun in our own lives in a mindful way. This is not the same as treating the sun as the ultimate creator of all things. I do believe there's something behind the sun and beyond the sun. And in fact, the sun is being affected by larger changes in our solar system. We also see major changes in the atmospheres of many planets. Some planets, allegedly, like Mars, Jupiter, Neptune, and some others, developing stronger magnetic fields at a time when our planet's magnetic field is weakening at an increasing rate. Mainstream science has already confirmed that our planet's north pole is moving. Many airports have already recalibrated their landing strips to accommodate these changes. And there's lots of speculation as to how this is going to affect GPS, how this is going to affect even our compasses. This gets into some really interesting material and information and research when we examine the rise and fall of civilizations throughout time, and other mythologies about other beings that may have visited this planet pretending to be gods around the time of major shifts on the planet, including changes coming from the sun, which have been talked about for thousands of years. Yes, the Western world has only been documenting these solar cycles for a few hundred years, but the research goes back thousands of years. We have a lot of things that we have to learn about the sun itself. Meditation, the ability to ground yourself, calm yourself, absorb the energy, but also let it pass through your body. These are some of the techniques that those of us on the path to true ascension, yet we also face the truth about the world, we have to take that time to do the necessary work to relieve our bodies of physical stress and pain. And using the power of the mind, a very powerful tool that can be used for good, but it also can lead to our own demise and destruction. We need to focus the mind towards amplifying our own personal power and creative ability as we experience these changes on the planet. In one particular meditation that I was listening to several weeks ago, the teacher that was guiding his students through the meditation talked about separating ourselves, our own energy space, our own experiences, what's going on with us, from that which is going on with the world, because it's very easy energetically for us to respond and react to all of these things around us. Not only emotionally how we respond to the news that's out there, but physically how we respond to the changes that the earth and its spirit is going through. I would encourage everyone listening to keep an open mind and to proceed with caution when you place judgment on some of these ancient teachings and assume that it's some sort of, that it's demonically inspired in order for us to worship something dark, something evil. There's a lot of fear out there towards some of these sacred teachings. What I can see is a world on the brink of chaos, which is coexisting alongside an entire population at the very least, a critical mass of this planet's population that is waking up to a lot of these ideas that were virtually unknown decades ago. Through the advent of the internet, we're surrounded with studies, and in terms of solar cycles and their impact on human consciousness and behavior, for better or for worse, we have a lot of material to work with. We have a lot of verifiable scientific studies. We have information on the internet from NOAA where we can look at sunspot activities to the day when there's something going on, when it's quiet, and we can look at the world around us, and we can do our own studies. We can be our own independent scientist, looking at the patterns and developing what I've called for years pattern recognition. When we can recognize the patterns, when we can see the cycles of the past, the present, and potentially the future, we can more mindfully direct our own personal journey and be aware of times where there are changes taking place that are causing some people to lose their mind. Now, I'm off the grid at the moment, and I can't help but laugh at the irony of the particular point in time that I ended up out here in the middle of nowhere in the San Luis Valley, which in and of itself is a vortex. Lots of legends about the mountains all around me, from the San de Cristos to Blanca Peak. In the last week, for the very first time since I've been here, several people have told me that they have seen fireballs in the sky. I look at the news and I read about a fireball over Southern California, a meteor going and crashing into Russia, injuring 1,100 people, a meteor in Cuba, landing in Cuba, crashing in Cuba. And there's a headline out right now about a sunspot that shot off around the 20th of February that is 6 times the diameter of the Earth itself. Now, when I talked about earlier in this video about the concept of energetic portals opening that may allow certain energies or intelligences, be they good or bad, to interface with the Earth realm, it's interesting to see mainstream science also document how there are leaks in our Earth's magnetic field. And it's baffling scientists. They don't know what this means. They've never studied anything like this. Portals opening up in our Earth's magnetic field. I know that a lot of people believe that all of these things are caused by man, that some sort of military weapon punched a hole in our Earth's atmosphere. And there are things like that taking place. But there are still things taking place that are far above anything that our government, or that which controls our government, is capable of. And I say this to remind all listening, all that are concerned about these changes, that there is hope. There is a light, there is a power, there is a creative force of the universe that is working in our favor. And it is that powerful creative force of the universe that at times can be unfriendly to electronics. But we can see today in our world how many of these technologies utilized by mankind's civilization are being used for destructive purposes. And they're not done yet. So take a deep breath, look at the sun, at least at sunset and sunrise, and investigate the truth about what these changes could positively mean in your own life. And I'm going to leave this video with that, and we'll continue this discussion at a later point in time.